Hello, everyone. This is Stephanie Bianco from the Center for Healthy Communities at CSU Chico. If you can hear me and you are on the conference call for our SNAP Ed proposal, if you could just note on your chat box that you can hear me. And we just want to confirm that because we don't have the video going. Yay, we can hear you. Okay. Right now we have everybody on mute just to help eliminate some of the background noise. We were going to start off our call with just some very brief introductions. Again, I'm Stephanie Bianco, the Associate Director at the Center. I'm also an Associate Professor in Nutrition and Food Science. In the room with me today, we have our SNAP Ed team. We have Amy Reason.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Naomi Stamper.
Hi.
She is our fiscal analyst and, our research analyst and fiscal manager. And then we have three nutrition and health educating specialists in the room who have been implementing SNAP Ed for quite a few years.
Good afternoon, I'm Amy Gonzalez. I'm a registered dietitian and I have been doing SNAP Ed up here in Northern California for about 10 years.
Hi, I am Jennifer Murphy, also a registered dietitian here at the center. I've been doing SNAP Ed for over 7 years and I even did some of my graduate research on some of the SNAP Ed programs way back.
And I am Melissa Stearns, a program manager here, and I've been doing SNAP Ed here a little over 5 years up in Northern California.
We also have another member of our evaluation team here, Dr. Marianne Paiva from Sociology.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Great. We will be recording this presentation as well as providing you with the PowerPoint presentation at the end so you can share with any of your campus interested parties in your campus. One thing we'd like to do briefly is just kind of shout out, we're going to move on to the next slide and kind of shout out our existing CSU CFO campuses. As a reminder, in the email that came out from our President Hutchinson, this opportunity was given to the 11 CSU campuses that are currently providing CalFresh outreach. You can see on the slide, the campuses that are circled are the ones who are invited to participate in this proposal from Humboldt to Long Beach. So I'm just going to, if you can, get ready to unmute yourself just to let us know who is there from each campus. I'm going to go from north to south. So at Humboldt, if someone in Humboldt could just let us know who you are and your title, please.
Hey, can you hear us? Hi, this is Brian Misler. I'm the director of the Health Center here. I'm with Raven Craig, our health educator, and Pia from Sponsored Program Foundations, and Jen McGuire is joining us shortly.
Excellent. Hi, Brian. Okay, you know who's on our Chico campus, who's here right now. How about Sacramento?
Hi, this is Reva Wittenberg from Sacramento, and I have most of our team here in the room. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Danielle Munoz, case manager here at Sac State.
I'm Lisa Leffler-Welton from Sponsored Program. Julie McGinty from Research Affairs.
Excellent. Thank you. How about East Bay? We don't hear anyone from East Bay, so if you can and you're having trouble with your audio, feel free to just message us. Otherwise, we'll reach out to you in a separate email. Fresno.
Hi, this is Jessica Medina, coordinator of the Food Security Project with Fresno State, and I have with me
Stephanie Annette, I'm a registered dietitian at the Student Health Center. Rock Swingen from the Division of Research and Graduate Studies.
Hi, Fresno, great. And we just got a notice that Andrea Wilson is here from East Bay. Excellent. San Luis Obispo, do we have anyone on the call? We don't hear anyone from San Luis Obispo. There's something muffled. Maybe it's Iden. Maybe. If you can message us, that would be great. Otherwise, just feel free to send me an email. Somebody may want to mute their button if they haven't, because we're hearing some background noises. How about anyone from Northridge?
Hi there, this is Patrick Bailey from Student Affairs, and I think on the call is also Jennifer and Nellie from Social Work and Nellie from Health and Human Development.
Great.
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Great.
I'm also here. This is Jennifer Henningfield.
Welcome. How about LA?
Hi, good afternoon. This is Rob Yonemoto, Director of Student Support. And I have a couple colleagues who are joining me on this call. Ernesto Argumanes from University Auxiliary Services, Financial Analyst, and Frangelo Aaron, our Assistant Dean for Wellness and Student Engagement.
Great. Thank you so much for being on the call. San Bernardino?
So this is Diane Podolsky from the Office of Community Engagement, and we're also joined by Jennifer Twowdy from our Sponsored Programs Office.
Thank you so much.
And also Ashley Solis from the Student Health Center.
Great. Great, Ashley. Thank you.
No problem.
Dominguez Hills. We're hoping we could get someone on. That's okay. We're not hearing anyone from Dominguez Hills, but if you can either send us a chat or email us later. Otherwise, we will connect with you. And last but not least, Long Beach. I know we have a couple from the Chancellor's office.
Hi, this is Virginia Gray. I'm an assistant professor of nutrition and dietetics at Long Beach.
Great. Excellent. Thank you.
And this is Denise Badley from the Chancellor's Office, Director of Student Wellness and Basic Needs.
Thank you, Denise, for being on the call. Okay, I think at this point, we're going to just mute everyone so that we don't hear any background noises. And at this point, I'm just going to ask my colleague if she can move the box. Okay. So we basically just heard from our other partnering campuses on the CFO contract. Next, we're going to be talking about what is SNAP Ed for those of you who really don't have a handle on this federally funded program. We'll briefly talk about the subcontractor proposal components. And as the prime on this contract, the rest of the 10 campuses will be considered subcontractors. This is a relatively straightforward proposal, unlike our CFO contract. I know all of you will be dancing in your offices right now. We also are going to go briefly over some of the SNAP Ed activities. These are approved activities, evidence-based activities that we're required to provide, as well as a prescribed work plan for every campus. We'll talk about the funding that is available to each campus to coincide with those activities, and then the next steps. Just as a reminder that this call is an introductory call, and hopefully we'll be able to answer some pressing questions or any concerns at the end of it. And just know that on Thursday, you'll know from the email that I sent, there's a subsequent conference call on the individual components. And we can answer more of the details of those templates at that time. So let's move forward, Amy, thanks. So what is SNAP Ed? Okay, just to clarify, because you all are familiar with the concept of CalFresh, and as you recall, SNAP is the federal name for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and in California, just like everything else, we have our own name. So CalFresh is our name for SNAP. It is formerly known as food stamps. Our CalFresh outreach program is under SNAP, which is funded through the Farm Bill and is administered by the USDA, Food and Nutrition Service, and eventually to the California Department of Social Services. Okay, so that right there explains why this contract is a bit different. This particular program, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, Nutrition Education, is actually approved through the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act. It's formerly known as the Child Nutrition and WIC Authorization Act. And this is administered again through USDA FNS, but directly tied to the California Department of Public Health in our state. So again, this is a little bit different in terms of where the original funding stems from, but I do think it's important for you to know where it does come from, as our administration, our upper administration, has control at this point and where it's going. So I would really like you to see the difference there. I've linked a fact sheet on general information about the SNAP Ed program, and so that will be available to you. In a nutshell, though, the program goal of SNAP Ed is to help SNAP eligible, so it's very specific to those who are CalFresh eligible, help them make healthy choices within a limited budget. It's the overall overarching goal. There's emphasis on nutrition and health interventions, unlike SNAP or CalFresh outreach, where we're really trying to help increase awareness of these benefits and to enroll our low-income residents. In this case, we're really trying to provide them with nutrition and health interventions, and this is all to help prevent obesity-related diseases. We have spoken with CDPH recently, and we talked about the outcomes related to the SNAP activities, and one very important aspect of SNAP Ed is to look at the impact that these activities have on poverty. So one thing we'll be looking at down the road is the student success outcomes and their overall or lasting impact on poverty. How the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, Nutrition Ed program works is that it can only be administered to specific sites that serve SNAP eligible participants. And how it used to be determined was through GIS information and basically whether or not they are close to the poverty level. So for example, we would look at free and reduced eligibility for meals, which was 130% of the poverty and 185% of the poverty. In the state of California, CalFresh eligibility is 200% of the poverty. And so basically what we're looking at is that the majority of individuals who we deem eligible, we could then identify that place or those places as eligible sites. So for example, we used to determine that many of our K through 12 schools were eligible sites because of their rates of free and reduced meals. Because we have been providing food pantries and we are enrolling students, California Department of Public Health recognize that college campuses are actually SNAP Ed eligible sites. So this is the first time we've been given this permission to implement SNAP Ed. And that's where this actual request for proposal came about. And as you recall from the email I sent, this is a non-competitive proposal, and we'll explain why they actually reached out to us to write it. And you'll see from the information we're providing on the history of SNAP Ed and the Center for Healthy Communities. Next slide.
Okay, this is Jennifer Murphy, and I'm going to spend just a few minutes on giving you just some background on what our role specifically as a center has been with the SNAP Ed program. So here at the center, we have a 15-year history of obtaining the SNAP Ed funding and implementing SNAP Ed activities. We've done this to over 200 schools and community sites in 15 California counties. Kind of the North Coast Cascade region. There was a big shift in SNAP-Ed funding around 2015. Before that, CDPH provided the funding to just kind of local implementing agencies. And then in 2015, they kind of shifted that funding to provide the funding through local health departments. It was offered to every local health department. Not every health department took the funding, but they were offered the funding. So that was a really big shift. So during that time, there were a lot of newly funded health departments who've never had SNAP-Ed funding before. So what they did during that time was they opened up an RFA for these training and resource centers, or TRCs. And there were 7 TRCs across the state to provide training, technical assistance, and support to all of these newly funded local health departments. And we were lucky here at the center to be one of those 7 TRCs. That was an 18-month contract, and we went to each county individually and provided individualized training specific to their county. And then just kind of ongoing TA and support to help them implement their SNAP-Ed programs. So we're very familiar with what it feels like to be new to the funding and the support and the training that you need to implement these activities.
Excellent. Thank you, Jen. And that is a good way to segue into what the subcontractors would be providing. There are 3 components to the subcontractor proposal. We have a project summary and a budget template. Those 2 items are something that you could use on your campus for routing. So hopefully you have at least one person from your Office of Sponsored Programs on the call, or at least through email, knowing that these 2 things will be available to you soon. In addition to those 2 items, we will need a contractor information form completed, and Amy and Naomi can go through some of these with you.
Yeah, so we are going to be providing, just like we did with CFO, we're going to be providing not only the template, but samples of the budget and the work plan as well to give you a nice jumping off point. The contractor information form is just that brief 2-pager that lists all the contacts on your campus fiscally and programmatically. So we're hoping this will be a pretty straightforward proposal. It will only be the 3 documents, and we're going to go in depth on each of those templates, go through a sample and all of the detailed instructions on Thursday on our conference call at 1 o'clock. So if you need that information to be able to join that call, you can reach out to Stephanie or myself to get that information. But like I said, we're going to really dive into those on Thursday. But what we want to talk more about today is really the overview of the SNAP-Ed activities, so that you can envision what this might look like on your campus and how it would partner well with your CalFresh outreach funding. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into that and then come back to more of the details later.
Sounds good. Thank you, Amy. Hello, this is Amy Gonzalez, different from Amy Reese, and we like to be confusing here at Chico State. So I'm going to talk briefly about some of the intervention components. You can see here there's 3 different components, and this is all, again, some SNAP-Ed prescribed intervention. So SNAP-Ed really likes to see 3 components. They like to see direct education, which is anytime you're meeting a participant for more than 30 minutes. They like to see some indirect education, where you're kind of doing some more fast-paced education, maybe some handouts, quick tastings. And then finally, they always like to see your interventions overlaid with a policy, system, or environmental change strategy. And so I'm just going to talk briefly about all 3. If you can click that link for me, Amy, the Cooking Matters. This is linked here. It should be, oh no. Okay, that's okay. We can still move forward. We can fix that link before it goes out to you guys.
Okay, perfect. And it could just be the setup of us.
Yeah, because I did double check it this morning.
Yeah, it could just be us being on here. Would you like me to try and go to the website, the Cooking Matters?
Sure, if you can, that would be helpful.
Bear with us for just one moment.
And as she's pulling that up, this is Stephanie, just to let you know that One thing we've learned doing CalFresh outreach on the campuses is that these activities are going to support the work you're currently doing. So basically, as we are encouraging students to sign up for CalFresh, obtain those federal dollars to purchase food, we're also helping them in terms of how to spend those dollars, what to spend them on in terms of a restricted budget or limited budget, helping them shop, helping them prepare, increasing self-efficacy for cooking. And we know some of the campuses are already doing similar work. And what Amy's going over are the actual approved curriculum, and the first of which we just pulled up, which is Cooking Matters.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thanks for bearing with us through technical difficulties here. So as I mentioned, this is the kind of premier Cooking Matters curriculum that SnapEd is recommending. And what's really nice about this curriculum, what we really like about it here is we've been using it for years at the center, and it's really hands-on. It really empowers students, families, and children to really get involved with their food. It also has some fundamental food skills, including knife techniques, reading label ingredients, cutting up a whole chicken, and then it also ties in how to make a healthy meal for a family on a budget, which we all know these students are definitely struggling with, especially if they're SNAP-Ed eligible. So what's nice about this curriculum, it has a series of 6 courses. They have different curriculum for adults, parents, kids, teens, families, childcare professionals, a whole laundry list there. And so you'll be able to choose from that list whatever kind of best fits your campus.
And then a shopping list.
Right? But yes, a shopping list. Amy, how do I get back to the regular PowerPoint? Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and like Naomi and Amy mentioned on the call on Thursday, we'll talk more about for your particular school, how many Cooking Matters series you would do. You know, for a smaller school, it might be like 1 series a quarter or a semester, and for larger schools, we would of course hope that you would be able to do more than that. So the second kind of set of direct education that we're looking at is a single session curriculum. So that first one, Cooking Matters, is designed to be a 6 lesson series, and this Eat Healthy, Be Active is really designed to just stand alone, perhaps a once a month or a once a week series. And these are really nice community workshops that are 1 hour long, and they include lesson plans, learning objectives, talking points, hands-on activities, videos, and handouts. And what's really nice about these, the Cooking Matters does require a little more training of your staff on campus, but these Eat Healthy, Be Active workshops can be done by someone who's maybe a little bit less familiar with public health approaches. So it can be really nice for an intern perhaps, or a student staff to kind of step in and be able to participate here. And then we also have indirect education. And for this, we're going to recommend using the Harvest of the Month curriculum. This is definitely a well-researched curriculum that the state has been using for, gosh, probably anywhere from 5 to 10 years. They've done tons of research. We're responsible for a portion of that research as well. And so this features a produce item once a month, once a week, depending again on the size of your campus. And we have some ideas here again that we'll kind of flesh through, but we're hoping to maybe promote something from your local pantry or perhaps local in your community with our Harvest of the Month tastings. And those are typically bigger tastings, so those would reach a much wider audience than both your single series and 6 series lessons.
And just to reiterate that indirect education, when you're talking about this, it's not a actual full lesson. Indirect education is designed to just be touch points. So think of like tabling at your school-wide events, or doing something in your student health center. It could just be a display and a tasting that's available. So again, the direct education was really lessons where it's at least 30 minutes with your participants. Indirect education is just touch points.
Thank you, Amy, for that clarification.
And for many of you who have food pantries, that's an excellent place to receive some of those nutrition education materials as well.
Okay, and then as I mentioned, the California Department of Public Health loves to see an overlay of policy, system, and environmental change in addition to kind of more that direct and indirect services. So they have a nice list here. Again, this is what will help provide you with that training and technical assistance to really pick whatever policy, system, or environmental change is going to fit your university or community college best. So you might pick something like the Farmers Market chapter. You might want to bring a farmers market to your campus. You might pick something like school wellness chapter. Maybe you want to talk more about school wellness or whatever the health of your campus is. So again, you'd have the freedom to kind of tailor design that for your campus. Okay, and then like every state program, there's always reporting requirements. So there will be a quarterly reporting requirement, which is into the statewide activity tracking form. And again, we'll provide you with all kinds of training and resources on how to implement this. There's a mid-year report and an end-of-the-year report. And then again, we always have an evaluation team. So we'll be working closely with, again, the California Public and Public Health Evaluator to finalize all those evaluation activities.
Great, thank you, Amy, for kind of giving an overview of the responsibilities of the subcontractor. And the one thing I'd just like to explain is that how this contract will work is, as the prime, we will be implementing SNAP Ed on these campuses similar to how we're doing CalFresh Outreach. We expect that the majority of you have never heard of SNAP Ed, have no idea about any of these activities, but to be reassured that we will be coming to your campus and providing you with all the training you need. And that would be in terms of, again, reiterating what SNAP Ed is, what an allowable activity is, what these individual activities are that Amy just went over, how to complete the reports, the tracking reports or the mid and end of year reports. We have an evaluation team that will have everything ready for you in terms of different surveys or evaluation tools, how to collect the data, human subjects. All of this will be folded in into a plan that we'll be providing with you. No one would be starting this from week one. We would be working toward this in a slow and steady manner. So please be reassured that similar to CFO, we're going to really be there to help you through all of the contract. So next I have Amy. Amy and Naomi are going to be going over kind of an overview of the budget and what you're looking at on each campus.
Okay, thanks, Steph. So we are looking at the range of campus sizes really as the basis and the jumping off point for determining, how your scope of work and budget might look for your campus. So a campus that's smaller, you would likely have a smaller scope of work and budget. Campus that's larger would have a larger scope of work and budget. So we grouped the campuses by into groups of small, medium, or large campus. So a campus that has less than 15,000 students was considered a small campus. A campus that had 15 to 25,000 students was considered a medium-sized campus. And then a campus that has more than 25,000 students was considered a large campus.
Yeah, and so then based on this, we were making some assumptions about how many students could be impacted by that and how many activities would be being done on each campus. And so these budget amounts really reflect the activities that are being conducted, but the activities that are being conducted is based kind of on how many people you could potentially reach based on your campus size. We want to keep in mind, though, that we want to try to be flexible with you all. And so this is kind of how we see it fit. But if your campus wants to change the number of activities, we could potentially make it work. So for example, if you are a large campus, but feel like you don't want to do the number of activities that we have allotted with that size budget, you can easily decrease your scope of work to what's seen with the medium-sized campus. Keep in mind, though, that your budget would then correlate with that medium-sized budget. And that is not a problem at all. If you are a smaller campus and want to potentially propose doing a larger scope of work, we may be able to have that flexibility. But it would have to be a further discussion we would have. Overall, we're looking at about $2 million for all of our subcontractors. And so depending on the activities and the budgets that other campuses are proposing, we will try to be as flexible as we can in terms of the amount of activities that you can each do on your campus.
And I just want to add to that, while we're looking at proposing a $2 million subcontract budget overall, keep in mind that this is a proposal going to CDPH, so we are not sure that we would be able to stay at that funding level until they were to review the proposal. So again, it's just, these are proposed amounts and in a way that we thought could be equitable across the campuses depending on the size of your campus.
They also, just to reiterate, they kind of mimic the type of budgets that CDPH gave to the local health departments based on their county size.
Right, and their number of SNAP-Ed eligible participants. Thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, that was kind of how we gauged what size budget we should move towards. We needed to have some sort of a rationale for that.
Right.
And so we'll go over more details in terms of what a budget like this would look like in terms of activities, but just to kind of give you an idea, usually our SNAP-Ed budgets are fairly personnel heavy. And so looking at this, probably about 60 to 75% of your whole budget will be just for personnel costs. There will be some minimal local mileage for conducting activities, but not all that much probably. We also are planning on hosting some statewide gatherings, which will be included in your budget. And then you'll also have other supplies for tastings and curriculums and things like that. And then F&A on top of that.
Right. And so thank you for segueing into F&A. So in the SNAP-Ed guidance, there is guidance regarding F&A on college and university campuses. But similar to what we found on CFO, the guidance is not crystal clear. And so there's some ambiguity. So we're requesting clarification, and we are, of course, pushing for the full federally negotiated on-campus rates to be honored, especially because these activities will be conducted on campus. So if you remember for CFO, we requested a letter that said at least 75% of your activities would be conducted on your campus. And with that letter, we were able to honor full federally negotiated on-campus rates. We are pushing for the same for this funding. However, we do not have confirmation of that yet.
And then in addition, it would be.
And then, right. So in the guidance, it does say that there's a cap of 26% of F&A, or there is guidance about using off-campus F&A rates. So hence the murky understanding of what it could be. So we are planning on providing guidance soon.
But just to let you know what we're currently, our current F&A rate.
So our current F&A rates on our SNAP-Ed budgets are off-campus rates. However, that's because we conduct the SNAP-Ed activities off-site. We're doing that out in our local communities. One huge benefit of this funding is that there's no match. So although I have you all muted, I know there's some cheering going on. Because yes, there is no state share or match requirement, unlike CFO. So I think I'm gonna pause there before we go to the next step, because I'd really like to open this up for a few questions at this point. So I have the chat box open. If anybody has any burning questions right now, you can also tell me to unmute you, and I can unmute a line. So if there are any questions at this point regarding the activities we've shared.
And we do know that this is a lot of information, might be a little overwhelming, so you may have questions later on. So we'll give you all that information.
So we just realized one bit of information that you're probably all burning to know is when is the proposed start date of these activities, and what what is the time frame for that funding level. So the start date we're looking at is April 1st of 2018, and it would be a year and a half. Yes, I see a comment in there about that. So SNAP-Ed funding is on the federal fiscal year, so we're looking at starting this mid-year next year, so that's April 1st, 2018. That would be 6 months in the FFY 2018 year, and then the full 12 months of the FFY 2019 year. SNAP-Ed through CDPH does run on 3-year cycles. So this proposal is to jump in at their midpoint of their current 3-year cycle. This is a pilot project. According to CDPH, they invited us to submit this as a non-competitive pilot project proposal.
In terms of the question that was just proposed by Danielle, do you think this funding will continue beyond the 1.5 years? Well, just to let you know, we have been doing this for over 15 years. SNAP Ed funding is relatively stable. There are a lot of positive outcomes that we have found doing the evaluation of this work. Whether or not it continues is always a question. I mean, the likelihood that it continues is high because we have been doing this for so long, and we do, based on the what we're trying to look at in terms of the outcomes, we feel like it is a bipartisan issue, and one that would get support on both sides of the political spectrum. So
and that's why we're trying to have a really strong evaluation component to this project, so that that can help us
protect the fund,
yeah,
because it is a pilot project, so
yes,
we do need to really have some concrete evaluation and all be on the same page there.
Yes. Any other questions pertaining to the contract? So with respect to the evaluation, has the tool already been developed? Whenever we do work with SNAP Ed evaluation, we work closely with CDPH and their primary evaluator. There is leeway in terms of the types of tools, but they do have to be approved. Many of the curricula that have already been designed have evaluations built in. But CDPH does understand that this is a unique population, one that they've never had before. And it's not that we're not open to any feedback, or suggestions. But the one thing that we really need to do is be consistent across all campuses. So we have an evaluation team set for this 1.5 years. And if there are comments, or if there are concerns or things that you would like to address or add, just please let me know. And then we can send that to the state for approval. But again, we're really trying to stay consistent with what we're doing across campuses. We have the potential for doing longitudinal studies. Again, the one thing that we're very excited about is that CDPH and the USDA, they are interested in the student success outcomes related to these allowable activities. We do need to be very careful in what we do and what we say in terms of the allowable activities. So moving forward, in regard to evaluation, please contact me. We are in communication with the Chancellor's office and trying to utilize some of the software that's currently available, the data dashboard, to try to tie the work to these individual students, and whether it has to do with their GPA or graduation rates, that's what we're looking at right now.
So then the next question that we received is, are the curricula required or recommended?
And so I just want to say on that note, this is Amy Gonzalez. Again, like Stephanie mentioned, at this point, they really are required. And that's really so we can get a more robust evaluation and be consistent across the whole state of California. So that, again, if we have potential, we can take this beyond the 1.5 years.
Great. Next question.
However, there are, it may be that there's concern over the number of activities done, and we will work with you one-on-one to determine what will work best with your campus, whether it's the size of your campus or the capacity. I'd say in the first couple of months, we're going to be doing a huge assessment before doing anything, looking at the campus resources, utilizing an assessment tool called CX3 to look at what is already going on your campus and nearby. So hopefully that's going to help set the foundation for the number of activities you'll be able to implement and the needs of your students.
And that's a great segue into the next question, which is there guidance about the number of activities by size of campus? And the answer to that is yes. We have definitely looked at kind of a baseline set of activities and scaling it depending on the number of students that could be reached, and then the budget size. So we want the amount of activities and the amount of unduplicated participants to scale along with your budget and the size of your campus. These are great questions. Keep them rolling. If you have more, we have time. And then we're going to roll into some next steps here in just a moment.
The one thing that you can be doing at this time before our call on Thursday is to really try to establish your SNAP Ed team. It can most definitely be your existing CFO team. The one thing that we would really like you to consider is bringing on a registered dietitian to the team, and that's because CDPH and the USDA highly recommends having a registered dietitian. There are questions that come up during the activities related to medical nutrition therapy, and a dietitian is well equipped to handle those questions or any types of concerns that might come up. So we do encourage you to do that. It could be a registered dietitian from faculty or even on staff at your health center. So if you could keep working on that team and identifying that team so you can send those names to me relatively soon, because we will need to keep the contact list updated with emails so everybody is, so the communication is tight over the next few months.
All right, so I think we're ready to talk next steps, Stephanie.
Okay. So as I mentioned, yes, we really do need you to work on getting that team established. I know it's difficult because it's summer and many people aren't working, especially faculty. So again, try to reach out to them. Remember that this did come from your president, and we have the support of the chancellor's office in moving forward. So please do your best to try to establish a team now and connect with me. I am available, as well as you'll see Amy and Naomi, where our emails are up, phone numbers are up, so you can reach us. But please send me the names of your team as soon as possible. Next.
Okay, so after this call, we are quickly working to finalize the samples of the docs. So we will be sending out templates and samples of the work plan as well as the budget. Then we're going to have a conference call on Thursday at 1 o'clock. If you need the call-in information, go ahead and reach out to us. And on that call, we will be going over all of the details of those documents.
And more details in terms of what activities each campus would be expected to be conducting on their campus.
Yeah, absolutely. Then you'll have 3 weeks to finalize your documents and route on your campus before they are due back to us August 17th. Then we will be compiling all of the documents and submitting this proposal to CDPH on August 31st. Any concerns about routing or any questions about working with your routing process on campus? Feel free to ask us. We fortunately have contacts through our CFO projects that if you need some help, we are happy to help you connect with your offices as sponsored programs. All right, so for any questions, please go ahead and email or call Stephanie, Amy Reeson, and or Naomi. Oh, good point, Naomi. So we put phone numbers on here, but we tricked you a little bit. It's all 530 area code.
And we can fix that before we send it out to you.
Yeah, so that way you'll have our full phone numbers and email addresses. But you can send us any questions or comments that you have, and then we'll be monitoring those emails and calls, and be sure to follow up with you.
Any
All
questions
right.
before we go? Any last minute questions?
Go to the chat. Any concerns?
Any red flags?
Yes, anything that comes to mind.
How excited you are to partner up with CFO and provide nutrition education with it.
And again,
oh, thank you. We appreciate it. So we got a lovely comment. Thank you very much. We're happy to partner with you folks.
okay, I don't see any other comments. Well, thank you all very much for being on the call and for continuing to partner with us. We want to thank the Chancellor's Office again for supporting these efforts. I think it's going to make a huge difference to our students, as well as the impact at the federal level. I think the results from this evaluation will be very significant. So thank you guys very much. And we'll be talking Thursday.